Well, it's time for the next diesel swap project. Brought home the Massey 7 from the farm. The way you see the tractor is the way I bought the tractor. There's no seat on it, no engine. I do have another 7 parts tractor that has a seat pan on it. Also has no engine and is missing some other panels. But aside from that, this is a very straight tractor. Paint's in really nice shape on it. I know the fender pan for sure has been repainted. It was not done the best. Honestly, it's been a while since I've seen this tractor when there was not snow on it or not buried by other things. But anyhow, what's on the floor is a 6 or 7 horse diesel. I'd have to look at the numbers again. And what we're going to do is put that engine in that tractor without cutting anything if possible. So first things first is the muffler is going to come off this engine. I am not going to use this exhaust whatsoever. I mean, these mufflers kind of serve their part, but in an application like this, it's just not going to work. So I'm going to go ahead and get that off of there quick. That way we can move on with getting it set in the tractor. And this muffler is not perfect, but it'll still work for something if anyone happens to need one. But the guard itself is smashed up on it, but the rest of it is fine. So that's off. What I'm actually going to do is take the gasket off. And what do you know? They actually doubled up the gaskets. But there's a little bit of soot buildup on the gaskets, which tells me that this engine was run or at least test fired. But the outlet of the muffler itself is clean. So, set that aside. And I'm actually going to move this guy over. It's a little tight working in here this time of year. That way I also have something for this hood to lean up against, because the hood prop rod is missing on this tractor. So, with that being said, the muffler's off. I should be able to reuse the fuel tank that's on this engine. And at first glance, it's looking like the battery tray is going to have to get trimmed a little bit back here. And or the electric start's going to have to come off. I've actually never tried to put one of these smaller engines in a tractor before, and I'm noticing now that at the bottom of the engine it's actually sitting wider than at the top. So two options: I can either A, make the front end a little bit longer, as in move the grill forward, and then have to put a different hood on it, have to cut down a Massey 10 or 12 hood. But that'll at least give us the idea of how this engine is going to fit in here. So real quick, I am going to pull the front end off so we can at least get the engine to sit in there and see how it's going to fit height-wise. Well, to my surprise, it actually fits. It doesn't exactly look the best because all of the shroud is exposed on one side and completely hidden on the other, but it does fit. I did take the air box off, which I knew I was going to have to. The crank doesn't stick out past the grill, which is nice, just the bolt does. But under the hood, I mean, she's a tight fit, where the starter's up against the battery tray right now at the moment. And aside from that, I mean, the fuel tank just barely clears. It does rub up against the hood brace bar. So what I'll probably try and do is shift the fuel tank over, which is not going to be that hard to do. I can pretty much just take this top mount bracket off, move the tank over. So if I can hold the hood here with one hand, take this bar or this bracket off, slide the tank over so that way this strap down point will be over the middle, and then this strap down point will be over the side, and the whole tank will be able to sit off to one side, because this is just a rubber hose underneath that goes down to the injection pump. So that would be easy, and that would resolve that issue. And actually, even the way that the engine is sitting, it's over all the way against the flywheel side at the moment, but it could slide over towards the PTO or drive end of the engine if need be. But it actually fits in there fairly well, all things considering. So even like there's some wiggle room. I can move it around, slide it around as needed. But needless to say, the fuel tank does seem to rub a little bit on the hood there, which I'm not too worried about, because the hood actually does close all the way and it fits nicely. So with that being said, it's looking like we're going to have an MF7D coming very soon here. So that's exciting. I'll just have to do some more brainstorming when I have a little more time to be out here and before I start drilling some holes in the frame, and we'll go from there. And like I said, if I need to modify the battery tray area a little bit there, I'm not too worried about it, because somebody's already cut the frame of this tractor out to fit a 8 or 10 horse like Briggs or Tecumseh engine in it. So I'm not too worried about modifying this one a little bit if I need to make this engine fit, because this would be a really cool tractor with a little diesel in it. So that's where we're at, and I will catch you guys later. I don't have much of an update on the Massey 7 diesel swap project, other than the holes are drilled, the engine is sitting in place, and I have the exhaust more or less done. Everything seems to be fitting perfect. I mean, it's another one of those classic jobs that I like to do, of make the engine fit the tractor versus make the tractor fit the engine. That way this tractor will still look like it would have potentially come from the factory this way. So this is where we're at. I still have to make an intake manifold, which I will have plenty of room to do. I mean, there's a good 2 inches from the face of the intake to the hood. So I have more than enough room to use some, like, probably 1x1 or 1 1/4 square tube to make an intake. As far as battery, I'm not sure what I'm going to do there yet, because the battery tray was compromised some to allow the starter to fit, and actually just even part of the engine in general. So either A, I can try and find a battery that I can put up front here, and then try and move the fuel tank back here. Otherwise, I will put the fuel tank back up front where it originally was, and I'll just have it moved over a little bit. And I'll have to redirect the fuel line a little bit, because there is that fitting on there. I can probably rotate that and push it the other way, or at least coming straight up. But as far as the exhaust, what we did there is I had an extra washer laying around at work that had a 1 1/4 inch, or like 1 1/8. It was a little over an inch inside diameter, and I welded a 1 inch pipe thread nipple to it, and then I welded washers to the surface of the large washer, and then filled in the backside with weld, so that way I actually had essentially mount holes, and got that mounted up. And then the rest of it is just all 1 inch pipe fittings to an old used pepper shaker. And the reason why I prefer these used pepper shakers is that muffler looks like it's been on this tractor since day one. It does not look like I just put the tractor together from this angle. Whereas if I would have went and spent the $12 or $15 or whatever they cost for a new pepper shaker muffler these days from Menards or Ace Hardware, wherever you get them, they're brand new looking. They don't have that aged look, and I kind of prefer that aged look on a tractor that's original paint. So that's where we're at with the Massey 7 right now. Probably not going to have a whole lot of time this weekend to do much more work to it. I am going to plan on getting some engine pulleys maybe this weekend, so I can get some pulleys on the engine there, get the drive system figured out and some belt guides, and then from there it's just a matter of getting this thing running and taking it for a test spin to see how it does, because I have not even heard the engine run yet. And I will be hooking up the throttle and choke cable. What I'm going to do is the throttle cable is going to be hooked up to the injection pump, and then the choke cable is going to be hooked up to the compression release lever. So if and when this tractor does have electric start down the road, if I needed to use the compression release, I could use it on the dash without even having to open the hood. And another nice thing about this tractor is that it actually has a hood latch mechanism down there that actually, that rod there, when you pull the lever up on the dash, it pulls down on that rod, which then clips onto both sides of the hood. Come on, focus. There we go. Catches on those fingers there, holds the hood nice and tight so the hood won't rattle around and pretty much keep the hood closed. And the only time I'd ever need to open the hood would be to put fuel in it, which for a diesel wouldn't have to be all that often. Even my 10-horse diesel, it runs for quite a long time on one tank of fuel. I can pretty much run an entire show season on one tank. And that's even being a little generous, because I couldn't tell you the last time I put fuel in it. But aside from that, that's where we're at there. I really don't want to do this, but if I need to, I will consider it. I might mount the battery up underneath the tractor if I have room in this general region up underneath. I'd rather not do that. I'd rather keep the battery in plain sight, but at least for now, if I did not deal with the electrical system, I'd at least have a pull start running driving Massey 7 that could essentially be show ready as soon as it gets a seat on it and the rest of it's cleaned up. So with that being said, that's all I have for now, and I will catch you guys next week unless there's something else that pops up midweek.